Secretary to the Government of the Federation, David Babachir Lawal, has been having a running battle with the ruling All Progressives Congress Party over his position on the declared outcome of the 2023 presidential election. Lawal maintains that Peter Obi of the Labour Party, rather than APC's Bola Tinubu, was the rightful winner of the contest by a wide margin. This position, coupled with earlier expressed views, especially on the issue of same-faith presidential ticket adopted by APC, has progressively done little to endear him to his former political colleagues. And with the political economy still reeling from the aftermath of the profound changes arising from the elections, the former SGF joins us now to share his views on the current state of the nation. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday. Well, the elections are over, and of course the victory of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been affirmed by the Supreme Court. So now I'd like us to discuss governance. How would you assess his performance, especially the reforms that he has undertaken since he became president on May the 29th?
Has he undertaken any reform? I'm not aware if he has. All he has been doing is appointing his cronies into juicy political positions. What reform has he done?
Well, I could remind you of, the two that readily comes to mind: removing fuel subsidy and, of course, floating the naira. What impact would you say that has had on our economy?
You know, I was shocked at when Bola Tinubu took those decisions. First of all, he removed the subsidy on the day he was sworn in, if I'm right. Now, at the time he did this, he had no Minister of Petroleum, he had no Minister of Finance, he had no Minister of Planning. I don't know on what data he took those decisions, because normally before you take such enormous decisions that will impact the economy of the country, you ought to do an analysis and have a standby plan to mitigate any outcomes that are going to be that will adversely affect the people. But he didn't have those people in place. He removed the subsidy. Going forward, before even he inaugurated his cabinet, he deregulated the naira. Again, I want to ask, he had locked up his central bank governor before then. He had no Minister of Finance. He had no Minister of Planning. He had no Economic Council. On what basis did he take those decisions? Simply the decision of an arrogant man who thinks he knows everything. And the consequences, of course, are there, because now the economy is in a free fall. People are suffering. People are finding it very difficult to get 2 square meals, not to talk of 3. So if those are reforms, I'm surprised at how he arrived at them single-handedly. I think the function of government is collegiate. You need to get the different segments of the society to give you input before you take such monumental decisions. He didn't. My friend is must know it all.
Well, he has been taking some measures trying to alleviate the impact, of those reforms. We do know that he started the cash transfer to the poorest of the poor, distribution of palliatives through state governors, and the local governments. But how far-reaching are these palliatives really? What else would you suggest can be done to cushion the impact of these decisions that he has taken?
Well, to be totally, I just came back from my village yesterday, and we are in the Hong local government of Adamawa State. I have not seen any person or heard of anybody who has benefited from all these things. As at this moment, I know that there are no less than 300 laborers working on my farm harvesting. And I do ask them who has benefited from this palliative. If there is any, nobody has benefited from it. So if they are doing any cash transfer to the poorest of poor, some of whom I know might be in my village, I have not seen anybody who benefited from it. Probably it's in their textbooks or they are given to Lagosians. I don't know. I don't know anybody in Abuja that has benefited from any of these palliatives. Maybe you do, so I don't know.
So what would you suggest that this government can do to alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians who are affected by these decisions that have been taken?
Good economic policies. If we decide to share our money, the revenue we have from Nigeria, if we decide to share it, everyone with his own share, we'll all starve to death. So that is what government exists to do, to make sure the collective income of the country is well invested in a manner that will yield bountiful results for everybody. So I'm not an economist, but I don't believe sharing money to people is the way to go. If you give me 100,000 naira today to feed my family only for 2 days, after that, what happens to me? But with good economic policies, we'll be able to earn our livelihood and based on the structures and the systems the government puts in place. So I think what we need is good governance. All said and done, all we are doing is to see that, to make sure that there's a government that has policies in which every Nigerian feels can identify with and can survive in it. That's all. You know, but this government, I doubt if they, as I said, the president seems to be acting on a I know it all syndrome. So we wait and see whether they will change, whether they have the capacity to deliver anything at all. To start with, I can't remember anything that this APC government promised us during the campaign. So we do not know how to hold them accountable to what they have not even said they will do. And so they are now simply, I think, going day by day as they think it fits. I don't know if they have any plans in place to mitigate the circumstances we find ourselves in. Well, I do not know whether they have any plans in place.
Mr. Babachir Lawal, definitely they've promised to renew the hope of Nigerians. But I'm wondering, if you're confident in the appointment, that the president has made so far. You talked about economic policies, and of course he has appointed, Yemi Cardoso, as part of his economic team, of course, a number of appointments. Are you confident, that with the people surrounding the president, with the people in his cabinet, that indeed he will be able to renew the hope of Nigerians?
I'd like to remind you that ab initio, we were friends with Bola Tinubu for many, many years. And I know the people around him. And I had the suspicion that based on my knowledge of some of his friends, I had an idea of who will occupy which position he's going to do. When he announced his cabinet of 46, to be sincere, I only acknowledge 2 people as being competent. And I phoned those 2 people and congratulated them and confessed to them that I considered them round peg in round holes. One, the first was David Umahi, who is the Minister of Works. Before David Umahi became a governor, he was a civil engineering contractor, building roads and buildings. So I considered him a round peg in a round hole, and I congratulated him for the appointment. The second person I thought was a round peg in a round hole was the Minister of Finance, Mr. Wole Edu, and I did also congratulate him. Now, as to his central bank governor, in my response to APC when they decided to take me on, I did mention that the president had the central bank governor with patch CV. I said patch CV because his CV indicates that he was commissioner of planning and whatever in Lagos State, a very small state out of the 36 states we have. And it's a big economy, but you cannot say he has enough experience for being in that position to be central bank governor. They also went on to say that he was chairman of a bank. I can't remember the bank. With 13 branches. And that doesn't give him sufficient exposure, a bank with 13 branches. And I did mention that they were all located along the coast. Lagos, 2 branches, Warri, Benin, all those things. Apparently, to me, the bank was targeting oil money. And and he's now central bank governor. And he didn't disappoint my expectations because the first thing he does as a governor, first policy was to remove import ban on 43 items, most of which were very critical to Nigeria's food sufficiency. He removed the ban on importation of rice. Nigeria had a very massive program on self-sufficiency on rice for the Anchor Borrowers program, and we're beginning to reach about 90% of self-sufficiency. We farmers were beginning to think by next year we'll be exporting the excess rice that we have produced. But he comes and says, no, you are now free to import rice. He can give you the foreign exchange to import rice. He does the same thing, I think, on so many other key agricultural items. So it convinces me that my suspicion that this man will not be able to do this job was right. So those two, I said, the rest I don't know them. I mean, I don't know them. On the basis of what you have been doing in the past, the Minister of Education from my state was Vice Chancellor of a university. He's been an academic all his life, but as being Minister of Education, I don't know. I think too he's around peg in a round hole. So that is my assessments of the government. The rest are just cronies, my friend's friend, my friend's girlfriend, my sister's, my wife's friend, all that. They are they're all over in the cabinet. So there you are. Maybe they will know something, well, maybe they will not.
Mr. Babachir Lawal,
to assess them.
Mr. Babachir Lawal, so sorry to cut into this discussion, but we're completely out of time. Former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Babachir Lawal, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.